Hi, um, my name is Spood, and I did not make it into playoffs in season 7.
Hi, Spood. Uh, my name is Cabral, and I once beat Scoots with a Wish Leafeon set with Leech Seed.
Dude, it's not. When you go to one of these meetings, you're not supposed to brag about something. You're supposed to admit you have a problem.
Well, AA I thought stand for like academically acclaimed or something.
No!
Are you telling me this whole time I've been with a bunch? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Double Dip Draft. I'm Cabral, coach of the hash slinging Aegis Slashers. Joining me, as always,
Is Spood, coach of the Southtown Sand Slashers, and we are back for week 5 of the Rocket Division in Double Dip Draft Season 8.
Rocket Division. Normally in week 5, I feel like we have a good idea who's making it to playoffs, or have a rough idea of, like, top 3, top 2, who are most likely to make it. Some people confirmed or not. It is, at this point, anyone's game still. And as we go through the matches, no spoilers, but you're probably going to see it is still likely anyone's game.
Yeah, I mean, just going into this, obviously just to set the stage, we've got a 3-1, that's Menma. We've got a 1-3, that's ASCII. Every single other player is currently sitting at a 2-2 and then has some shade of differential, either positive or negative.
And even then, the differential, it goes from 10 to -10. That's like 2-5-0s.
It's fairly narrow, and even narrower is, from 2nd to 7th place is 4 to -6, That could be if your 2nd and your 7th place fought each other, and 7th place 6-0'd 2nd place, they would then move above them. That's how tight the division is. And because so many people are sitting at 2-2, that means the standings really can't change that much, unless ASCII gets a win or Menma takes a loss. You're pretty much going to see this kind of, spread across to just being like 3-2s and 2-3s for the people in the middle. And then maybe you'll see, Menma stay at a 3-2, or maybe you'll see ASCII up to a 2-3. But you're really not going to see, that much movement. It's almost like a reset. Like, we're doing week 1 over. You know how you end with 1-1-1-1-0-0-0-0? It's going to kind of look like that no matter who wins and loses. And we're going to talk about that more, I think, at the end of the video when we go over the standings, because it's very relevant as we enter the zenith of the season here. But we've got some matches to get us there first.
We do. Well, who do we got first? You gotta tell me.
Oh, I'd love to! First, we have got Bananas of Don't Drop That Dedennes fighting Liz of the Sunshine State Smolivs. Bananas doing okay this season, has taken, a little bit of, he's performing below his seed, but not by like a crazy amount. Again, the field is so narrow right now that it's kind of hard to say that anybody is particularly over or underperforming, but you could definitely say that of Liz, who was seeded pretty low. I don't remember exactly, but certainly was not projected to make playoffs under the assumption that she was like a brand new player, and that, a lot of the time brand new players don't tend to do this well. But currently, I mean, we're seeing Liz going into this at a dead even 2-2, and she hasn't fallen out of the top 4, I don't think, a single time since the season has started.
No, I don't think so. And on top of that, there's a level of, like you said, Liz is playing really well. It's very unexpected, and the same goes for Goober, the new players in this division, providing some genuine, competitiveness with these players who've been with us now for some time. And that's why Rocket right now is so close. Everything's very competitive, and everyone's playing to their outs in this division.
Yeah, I mean, it is scrappy. It is chaotic. Everything is so close that, again, as we were trying to say earlier, like, there's, a lot of the time when you get to week 5, there are trends that you can look at, and really the only trend we've seen so far here is everybody is more or less staying competitive. And I mean, looking at this team matchup, this one looks pretty volatile.
Yeah.
I would say at a glance, Liz's team looks really, really weak to like a Dragon Dance Mega Altaria. except Mega Altaria gets pretty hard walled by Mega Steelix. I think even the Cotton Guard set that we saw from Bananas, I think last week or the week before, I still don't even think that could meaningfully outpace a Mega Steelix. So, but then you look at Mega Steelix, it's like, oh, Mega Steelix gets owned by Iron Bundle. And then it's like, okay, well, Iron Bundle gets owned by Chansey. Chansey gets owned by Aegislash. Aegislash also gets owned by most variants of Steelix. But it's basically just a long, twisty, like, I have this, that beats this beats that beats this.
Yeah. And a lot of, there's a lot of reading and inference that the players are going to have to do, I think, to navigate this field with the opposing Pokemon. And both Pokemon sets, I feel like we've seen fairly frequently from both players. Not that they're bad or anything like that, but these are staple Pokemon from both of these teams often, it feels like.
Yeah, you're not seeing like a crazy amount of variance on either side. I mean, they've definitely got their staples that they feel comfortable with. And I mean, we've seen good performance. Liz has started bringing Chansey a little more recently, but Chansey was benched for the first couple of weeks. So, we're seeing a little experimentation, but mostly, yeah, we're kind of stuck in the same little hole. I would say really the only thing of note here is we do see a little Terra Water Reuniclus, and Reuniclus hasn't seen a lot of meaningful play quite yet, but it is always a threat.
It is. We've seen it in previous seasons do really well, but with that being said, we're not in previous seasons, we're in this one! I'm clicking play.
Let's do it.
We have a Gligar lead, which makes sense. I love Gleep, Warp, and Intimidate. Not getting through the
Hypercutter, yeah. What's interesting is this is a pretty offensive Gligar. The Hypercutter to stop the Intimidate, it's definitely made specifically to counter the Incineroar, and it wasn't even holding an Eviolite, so quick progress, and actually Liz plays this really, really nicely, calls out the Pursuit, gets a Reflect up, does very little damage. She's able to very safely get in the Mega Steelix.
Yeah. And then brings in Chansey on Reuniclus. We do see the Terra Water. We see a Calm Mind, and that's already really scary. Toxic coming out. And at this point, Liz needs to come and strike now while, before this thing sets up even further, because there's a second Calm Mind.
So here's what's complicated about this, is Reuniclus really suffers from that 4 move slot syndrome of, your exact set of 4 moves has to really hard counter the enemy team, because you might be leaving coverage on the table, you might be leaving healing on the table, you might be leaving status on the table, you might be leaving defensive setup on the table. Like in this case, it doesn't have Acid Armor. It's only running Calm Mind, Recover, Terra Blast, and Toxic. So Terra Blast is its only attacking move, Toxic is its only status move. This could, in theory, get walled by a good sturdy Chansey, and it would be vulnerable to something like Thunder Wave, but Bananas, his 4 moves are just the right 4 moves for this situation, it turns out.
Yeah, because if you start to think about Liz's team and the offensive threats we have, what really hits this physically? The answer is Steelix and Annihilate, who now at this point is toxic and is getting chipped really, really hard. And with Recover, the amount of HP being gained back is huge, because that means Annihilate cannot stay in and get more bulk ups to really take this thing out.
Right, Bananas can't, or rather, Liz can't bulk up, Liz can't, she can't persist through the Toxic, and he's just refusing to give her any Rage Fist boosts. And you see here, these actually speed tie, so I'm assuming that Reuniclus was creeping the Steelix to some extent.
Yeah.
He may have been creeping some other specific Pokemon, or maybe they were speed tied and he just wins that 50-50, but I would assume that he was running some speed for that Steelix, because he does end up one-shotting it, and we've already seen this thing chunk through so much of Liz's team. Even if she does manage to bring it down at this point, she has so little to work with in terms of health and utilities, and both of her Pokemon are status.
Freeze maybe there to let Annihilate.
It's already over. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't even outpace the Toxic damage on both of these. All Bananas would have to do is live for another 5 or 10 turns.
Yeah.
And we finally see a Terra Blast, and Bananas optimizing for diff decides to go into this on the expected Drain Punch, and then he actually will then double into Iron Bundle to tank the Rage Fist.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Liz gets folded over by that Reuniclus. All that analysis, all that prep, all that identifying the thing that wins against the thing that wins against the thing that wins against the thing you brought. Forget about it. This is one of those Reuniclus games.
Yeah, and I almost said annihilate. Bananas at the end there, just like you said, just keeping that diff up and just, with Toxic already going to kill, all I have to do is bring in a couple Pokemon that ensure the survival from these hits or whatever, so that I can just keep the diff high, because Bananas has been needing, a solid win that doesn't hurt at all to have, because Bananas has lost a few matches earlier during the season, and it's kind of nice to get some good diff going, because the diff has been so competitive, and we'll go over that stuff a little later. But I want to try a little trick here. I'm going to name the next scene, but I'm going to do it while drinking a glass of water.
Oh, exciting. Okay, we're being a little avant-garde.
I can't wait to start coughing really badly. So, here we go. We have... Okay, I got that over all of my glasses. So, and then we have Asky of the Philadelphia Phantumps.
Oh, I thought that was what you were saying first.
No.
Okay. Well, just to translate from water guy to normal guy, what he meant to say was Martian Mantines versus
my
the
nose.
Philadelphia Phantumps. Yeah, tell me about this.
Yeah, hold on. Put my glasses back on. Got the water.
Okay, I will tell you about this.
So we have a pretty.
Okay.
No, I'm good now. We got a pretty standard team from Asky, although we do see Trapinch, and I love Trapinch. He's funny.
Yeah, Trapinch, if you're not privy to it from the draft analysis or from previous seasons, it has one thing that it does, which is it comes in and hits first impression off of its inexplicable 100 base attack.
Yes.
And that is decent paired with its ability Arena Trap, which stops the opponent from switching out. So it's a pretty decent revenge killer against Dark and Psychic types.
Yeah. And then from Black Captain, we see a fairly standard team as well. Stuff we've seen beforehand. Usually we have lead with Araquanid for webs. We have our Shifu literally clicking the button, it clicks, and then killing the thing in front of it. Hydreigon's here as well, and then we have Garganacl, which a lot of people have struggled with that thing. Chiller Reception, Slowking Galar's a lot of fun. I really wanted that this season. And, Typhlosion Sui is also here just doing what it does and probably taking advantage of some sun with some fire attacks, honestly, because most of this team is not super bulky that Asky has.
Yeah, Asky, again, he has a lot of stuff that, he's got a couple of little micro synergies, he's got Electric Terrain with his Quark Drive, he's got Drought with his Chlorophyll. He's brought both of those synergies, plus Yuxi and Trapinch for their utility. But, they're not terrible into this team. I mean, Trapinch is so slow, but also Galarian Slowking is pretty slow, and, it's not like Trapinch really needs the bulk or anything, so you might be able to creep some versions of Slowking, and just Earthquake it, Obviously, First Impression looks really strong in a Hydreigon, probably just kills it if it doesn't have Protect or a Tanga Berry, I think is the bug one.
Yeah.
Really, the stuff on Asky's team is really not that bad, especially if something like, a well-played Hisuian Lilligant looks insanely threatening,
and even
if it has fighting coverage and grass.
Yeah, and even then, looking at this team, I don't see anything here that really resists a strong Fairy move or a Volt Switch from Tapu Koko.
Yes, that is true. Tapu Koko Volt Switch is pretty free. I mean, it's resisted by Hydreigon, and Slowking doesn't take a whole lot of damage, but still, I mean, you don't want Hydreigon in front of Tapu Koko because it's just going to get completely 4 times overkilled by a Dazzling Gleam. So that's just not really going to be a primary concern. I would say I'd be more concerned about Slowking.
Yeah. But I mean,
maybe a random Mirror Coat Araquanid too.
Oh, I love Mirror Coat Araquanid. We've seen that a couple of times too. But let's get into it and let's go ahead and talk about it and see what our leads are. Charger for Drought and Urshifu's here.
Yep. Asky just never gets to Mega Evolve this thing early. No. It's very unfortunate. But I love the Tapu Koko Electric Seed, actually, because we see that plus Calm Mind, and it looks really solid. It's kind of a call-out into Slowking, saying that either you can't hit me or you're going to switch out.
Yeah,
and look at that Thunderbolt! My God! And that Earthquake doesn't do, any damage either because of the Electric Seed.
Yeah, so at this point, what does Black Captain really do? Thunderbolt doing 45 to Slowking with how bulky that is crazy.
Yep. Slowking showing it probably doesn't have any kind of poison coverage either.
No.
Otherwise, it probably would have gone for it.
Yeah, and Psyshock also only doing 30%, which is crazy. So that means either Calm Mind or Roost or, again, back to full. What is this thing really doing to you?
Tapu Koko outpacing the Slowking, although it did lose its electric terrain, so its electric moves are going to be a bit weaker than they otherwise would be, were it kind of just immediately having come out.
Yeah.
Get it, Dazzling Gleam. The Earthquake does 47, so it's not quite two-shotting, but the problem is that it's going to outpace your Earthquake anyway. You might be able to get like 1 or 2 more hits, and it can recover too, so... makes sense for ASCII to go, even though he loses a ton of setup.
I do wonder how much Thunderbolt might have done over Dazzling Gleam, but I don't know for sure.
It's 10 more base power, so I don't know if it would have quite cinched a 2-hit KO. It was maybe a roll.
Maybe a roll,
or maybe it
I
just
don't
didn't
know.
get there, but... Problem with Thunderbolt is that you're not even, gambling a paralysis on it on account of its ability, so...
Oh, yeah.
And you see Leonardo da Vinci comes in.
Leonardo da Vinci. Did you just think of that? Because that's solid.
I think I've seen that somewhere before,
Okay.
but I don't know, it came to mind.
I mean, 49% on Slowking is crazy, actually. And then, of course, it can come in on this thing and click it again or expect to switch out because that levitates and click Earthquake.
Yep. I mean, at this point, that's kind of a gamble. First impression... Like, if you don't attack that outright, you're making some risks. But, he's not quite playing from behind until right now.
Yeah.
Like, that is, I think, the decisive turn where Hisuian Lilligant just gets sacked for nothing.
Yeah, and this comes out, does kill Slowking, which is huge. But
it's getting kills.
It is getting kills.
I just think it could have gone for the Earthquake earlier, not on the switch-in, but the first time it was out in front of it instead of going for first impression. I'm not sure if ASCII knew about poison-resisting bug or not, but I think an Earthquake would have killed it.
Probably would have, because that's super effective with stab.
Yep.
So.
And Garg does as Garg does now.
Yeah. In a weird way, without Slowking, Tapu Koko lost its ability to set up again. Because it might have been able to do another Calm Mind and do some decent damage, but Slowking needed to be there for that. Koko could not sit in front of Garganacl.
Yep. Iron Moth doesn't find any real progress from the Energy Ball. Maybe if it had locked itself into Fiery Dance instead, we could have seen something else. But that's risky in front of Garganacl. It's just at this point you kind of have to start playing really aggro because you're playing from so far behind.
Yeah, Soldiering comes out just to ensure whatever comes in on it. Even though Hydreigon resists that, but yeah.
Yep. Hydreigon outspeeds. It could anyway, but I guess it doesn't.
Yeah.
Running a physical Hydreigon is kind of interesting. That's weird.
That is very interesting. I wonder if Charizard had a fire move and a dragon move, if that might have been enough.
I mean, Weather Ball is a fire move in this context.
So
but
Weather
I don't
Ball
know.
and like a dragon move? Don't know. It's pretty fast. I guess Sucker Punch.
He's got... Yeah, the thing is, like, Urshifu is going to do as Urshifu does, especially if you're already down to 51% because of the rocks. Like, this is complicated. ASCII, I mean, he had some momentum, especially early on with that setup Tapu Koko. It just kind of didn't, the follow-through wasn't really there. Again, like, Black Captain's Draft is so smothering. It's really difficult to maneuver around, like, Galarian Slowking and Urshifu Rapid Strike and Garganacl at the same time.
Yeah. Funny idea. No. Well, maybe. I don't know. I was wondering how Magnet Rise would have done on Koko.
Maybe it would have been okay, but like, what move are you giving up for?
I know,
right?
that's what I just saw, because it was Dazzling Gleam or Thunderbolt, and it's like, both are kind of nice to have.
Yeah, it's because you definitely need Dazzling Gleam for the
Hydreigon.
for Shifu and the Hydreigon, frankly.
Yeah.
But Urshifu is the thing I'd be most worried about. Conversely, obviously, Thunderbolt is just good splashable damage into everything, including the fire type, which, I mean, Typhlosion revealed it had Earthquake, so it was also a threat. So it's really hard to say, what ASCII could have done differently, but I thought the buttons he clicked were overall pretty good, except for the hard switch in on Hisuian Lilligant. I think Lilligant could have had some real application into the late game.
Yeah.
But he opted to sack it, or at least risk it. I'm not sure if it was intentional to let it die or not.
Yeah, but again, as you said, I agree. I think the right buttons were clicked, and I think at the end of the day, that's just how battles go. There's all these ifs, ands, and buts, but at the end of the day, here we are at the end of the battle, and we have a win, we have a loss.
That's true, as is nature's course. And
Yes.
Black Captain definitely happy to pick that one up. ASCII, that's tough, but we'll talk about it more later from his perspective.
Hey, do you know what? That was what a smooth segue you just had there. Somehow the editing got adjusted a little bit, but you had such a smooth segue. Can you redo that segue into this?
Oh,
match?
yeah, sorry. It was so good that I blinked out of existence for a second, and I'm blinking back in by announcing the next match, which is between Nihilus of the Dallas Duckletts and Goober of the Bidwell Bees. Nihilus, having a decent season, although kind of lacking in diff right now. And again, it's such a narrow division that you kind of need anything you can get. Goober sitting on the other side, also outperforming his seed, very similar to Liz. They both, if you lose, you're not out. If you win, you're not in. But this determines how comfortable you feel for the rest of the division, more or less. Like, this is, am I looking over my shoulder, or can I maybe, let my breath out a little?
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is both of these players just have some scary drafts, as we've talked about in the analysis, going over the teams and the previous weeks and stuff. Goober has such oppressive offense and set up sweepers and these switch-ins and these answers to other Pokemon. Nihilus, on the other end, has Deoxys defense, a Shell Smash Blastoise possibility. Tinkaton can come in and get some cheeky hits, and of course, Mega Kangaskhan, and whatever the heck that Smeargle does.
True, Smeargle's always on some bullshit. Basically, here's the thing. So, Beedrill is really exposed to hazards in general. Very afraid of webs, very afraid of rocks, very afraid of spikes. Its favorite thing to do is come in on something that is slower than it, which is most Pokemon, but also doesn't have any kind of meaningful priority, and U-turn out. Just get a huge, chunky, big damage stab U-turn, and then let something else take the hit for it. And in front of this team, it looks a little more possible, because if Vikavolt was here, you could more or less guarantee webs were going to be out on the field. But with Smeargle there, you can't ever rule them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at this point, I think we can speculate all we want, but we kind of have to get into the match and just watch it. We have Kangaskhan lead, and then we have Magnezone as well.
Yeah, Balloon Magnezone is pretty safe. It's more or less going to always live something from Kangaskhan. Nihilus goes for the early double power-up punch just to get some quick damage, and Goober misses the opportunity to get a nice Volt Switch pivot, something safe out. Instead is kind of forced to go hard into Landorus, and now is in kind of an awkward position, gambles on a Focus Blast and misses, and suddenly is now playing without his 10-pointer again.
Yeah, and then we get Beedrill for some speed, and then...
Nope, it's got Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
So this was, and Goober's aware of how this came out. That Sucker Punch also, it was technically a roll, but it was literally only max roll that was killing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, from that position, and we'll talk about it more later, but Earth Power was always going to be the better option. And you see now Goober playing way, way on the back foot. Nihilus's Aura Sphere doesn't quite kill, but now we've got a Shell-Smashed Cloyster. Rock's Blast, could kill depending on the Blastoise set. Would never kill Tinkaton anyway, and Tinkaton, boop, goes for the fake out. So missing the Rock Blast, it's a bummer, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and even so, with Goober down to one Pokemon, this Arcanine, you can see how much damage this thing is doing. Surely a Head Smash will knock this thing out. No, but pretty
it's
close.
Decently fast. Nope, not quite. It's decently fast. It has a great move pool. It's doing good damage. It's got the extreme speed to pick up those kills. It can do some, Flare Blitz can kill a lot of the stuff here. Head Smash can kill some stuff. If it lands a hit, which it won't, and then he loses.
Really such a shame. A crit actually might have taken out Blastoise too. I'm not 100% sure, but a crit would have.
Oh, for sure. I don't think there's anything in this game really, unless it's like quad resisting, that is going to live a head smash from Arcanine that crits.
Yeah.
That's Goober playing to his outs, but basically to elaborate more on that one turn with the Focus Blast miss, that sucks. That miss pretty much sealed his fate early on, but what we should acknowledge about that scenario is that we need to think about moves in terms of their risk reward, because Earth Power does always kill Kangaskhan there.
Yeah.
So, thinking about that, like maybe you consider, okay, it's a 50-50. Focus Blast will hit something if it tries to switch in, like, Articuno is immune to Earth Power, for example. But if you really sit down and think about it, you might realize, like, well, hey, wait a second. If I Earth Power and Articuno comes out, then I can just switch something else into Articuno. That is not like the end of the world for me. That's not a terrible position to be in. Mm-hmm. But conversely, if I click Focus Blast, that's not a mid ground. That's me hedging my bets that I get the 70% that doesn't immediately take me out of the game. And from that scenario, you think of the worst case scenario from both outcomes. I Earth Power, something switches in. That's not great, but it's not a huge loss of momentum this early on. Whereas if you miss that Focus Blast, you are screwed. And he was. And he also, again, very carelessly gambled away Beedrill, just hoping that there wouldn't be a Sucker Punch. So both of those mistakes back to back were really tough. But I just focusing in, just zooming in on that one blunder with the Focus Blast, you just didn't have to risk that. It just would have been the safer option to click Earth Power and accept that somebody might have switched in that could take it better. Or, get Kangaskhan out of the way early and maybe keep your Landorus opened up for a later game sweep.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes players, and not specifically with this match, are just kind of scared to sometimes hit the thing in front of them. They want to make sure they just knock it out. But even if Earth Power, let's say, was a roll or whatever, Arcanine could have come in with extreme speed, or something along those lines. As long as you get damage on it, why take the risk of missing when you can still just hit the thing in front of you? Because sometimes that's a little more important when you have the priority. Didn't have to lose Beedrill that early or some of the other Pokemon. And Arcanine...
the extreme speed wasn't necessarily going to kill either. The thing is, like, if you risk, letting your Arcanine get maybe popped by, like, a Sucker Punch or something, or, if you're locked into extreme speed, maybe she just goes for Earthquake or something. Like, it's difficult to maneuver that perfectly, but if you risk losing your Arcanine from that game state, like Tinkaton, you just would never be able to kill it with what he had left.
Well, what I was saying is, if the Earth Power was a roll, right, you still just hit the thing in front of you, then you come in with an E-Speed afterwards, or with Sucker Punch on
true.
Brute Bonnet. Sometimes
it's
hitting the thing.
True. For the record, though, it was doing like 50 minimum, and it only had 40% left, so it really, it was a pretty safe roll.
Yeah.
And you could have already seen what, kind of said it was based on the damage rolls earlier if you calculated them, so... it's just too bad, it's not really, it's just something that comes with experience, being able to identify, how screwed am I if this turn goes badly, how much can I afford to throw it away. Because we were just saying with the ASCII match, he needed to start playing more aggro at the end of the game because he was looking kind of backed into a corner and he needed to start making aggressive reads, because if he just kept safely hitting what was in front of him, clicking the energy ball into the Garganacl or whatever, you're setting yourself up to probably lose. Whereas if you are starting to make reads, maybe you make one sick gamble and it pays off in your favor, maybe then that gets you back in the game.
Yeah. But, that's all... comes down to just inferring and reading the situation, and how are you just with your experience and understanding of the game, how are you inferring how this will turn out or whatever, how are you playing to your outs and stuff. And there's so much stuff that we can just say, but at the end of the day, it's what are you still going to do with that stuff and that knowledge at the end of it? It's all what ifs.
I guess to wrap it up in a beautiful little bow, then I would just say, the different phases of the game, early game, mid game, late game, they are distinct in what you should be trying to accomplish and set up for. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things where hey, maybe in a tense late game you have to make some reads, but if you're pretty early on and you're pretty comfortable and you still have most of your resources at your disposal, don't risk something like that so early if you don't have to. And especially, you need to scout that Sucker Punch. Don't just go into your Beedrill and hope that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I think he learns the lessons. He learns them the hard way, but he does learn the lessons,
Yeah. And again, this isn't to say Goober's a bad player or anything like that. I think Goober plays really well. Again, Arcanine had out still later into the game, just because of how good it is as a Pokemon, which was really cool to see that Goober was still able to keep that from being a 6-0, a full sweep.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Either way, we do have one more game. We have Aurora, coach of the Hoensbroek Haunters, versus Menma of the Minnesota Jynx.
Minnesota Jynx.
Yep.
Poor shame.
I know. I'm sorry. Forgive.
I will.
Cool.
I'll allow it.
Either way.
Yeah, again, talking about just story of Rocket Division, Aurora underperforming her seed, Menma overperforming his seed. Same stuff we're saying pretty much every week. Pretty much the same team we're seeing off of Menma from every single week, but we're also seeing from Aurora's side, a couple of rarer things. I believe this is Livani's debut game, and we haven't seen very much of Jellicent either.
Yeah. On top of that, by the way, we'll mention this into next week's recap for the Rocket Division, but Menma is the only trade this season with, of course, Mass of the Treasure Town Tokatics. We will be going over that stuff in next week's recaps, but we will be missing Iron Valiant and Enamorous, who we have not seen from Menma. They will not be on Menma's team into the next set of matches.
Yeah. So just something to consider for later weeks. But this week, I mean, we've still got Iron Valiant in play, and it is looking, it is glowering right in here.
I mean, looking at the team here, yeah, this thing does so well into most of these Pokemon.
Well, so here's the thing. Naganadel has been kind of underperforming into this division so far, but this is prime feast for Naganadel. The only thing here that really looks like it's a potential, consistent threat is like, I don't know, maybe an AV Melmetal, right? Or maybe if Starmie's gotten off a rapid spin, it can do it. But Naganadel outspeeds Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant, and, that Sludge, what is it called? Poison and Dragon coverage hits both of them super effectively, very easily one-shots them depending on the sets. So, Naganadel very threatening into Menma's top end. And it's not like he doesn't have answers, but Naganadel's going to immediately just put on a lot of pressure from Team Preview. And, I mean, Livani Webs makes that even more difficult. Pangoro Bullet Punch threatens a lot onto
Iron Valiant.
And even like a close combat or something, like if, Roaring Moon gets in front of Pangoro, it's incredibly threatening. And Mega Mawile, I mean, again, fairies are just so good into Menma's top end. I mean, that's probably why he grabbed Melmetal. But still, Mawile and Naganadel as a combo is just really threatening into this whole team.
Yeah. And at this point, I think, again, like usual, we have to jump in to see how they play, what they start with. We do get Livani. Maybe we see some webs. Or we run away from Hitmontop.
Makes a lot of sense. So you see this thing doesn't have Intimidate because it doesn't use it, so you gotta assume Technician, which means you could probably assume it's, Mach Punch, Rapid Spin, Triple Axle, stuff like that. Yeah. And Aurora wisely just pieces out and says, I'm not gonna set up my webs for you to immediately Rapid Spin and then Triple Axle me.
Yeah.
Which is the right call.
Grass Knot's interesting. I wonder if Thunderbolt would be doing a little more damage, because Jellicent's not super heavy.
Yeah, I think Thunderbolt would be doing more. I don't know if it would clinch to the 2-hit necessarily, but in that scenario, yeah, Menma decided, like, of all the things, like, I'm going to give it Starmie. It's fine, we'll trade it for Jellicent. Jellicent is annoying in this team, too.
Yeah, getting that down to 5%, then Bullet Punch comes right out, as you were just talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's tough. I think, Hitmontop maybe could have lived a Bullet Punch and then threatened it out with its own priority because of how, low it was.
Yeah.
But again, Aurora playing pretty safely, pretty reliably, soaks up the close combat and the fake outs and things like that, or, the rapid spin.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, Aurora stays into sack this, says, I'm not going to let you Dragon Dance.
Yep.
I'll let you kill me, but I'm not going to let you Dragon Dance.
Yep, and then we get another Earthquake here, and then again, just clicking move to kill this thing instead of, relying on a Sucker Punch to try and go faster or whatever. Just hitting things.
Not even a Brick Break. Yeah, I mean, it was genuinely, or not even a player off, it was a Brick Break, just so it would never miss, too.
Mm-hmm. And Triple Axle with only 2 hits, and then Livani's gone.
Yeah, this is just like an easy sack. You don't even need webs anymore. You're already faster than both of these things.
Yep. And Swampert is just so good in these last 2 Pokemon. I cannot believe Skull just basically one-shots that thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's quad week to it.
Yep. At this point, Earthquake, just bring it down. It's okay to sack this because, Aurora at this point is way ahead. Mega Mawile comes in, Brick Break kills this, and
yep,
that's it. Some short matches this week, by the way. We're only 35 minutes in, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, we rip-roaring through that. That's 17 turns, 10 Pokemon out. That's, more than 1 Pokemon every other turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, just real slap happy back and forth. Aurora playing like really, really safe, very precisely. And yeah, just had all the right tools to kind of navigate around Menma's draft, putting her in, I wouldn't say like a particularly dominant winning position, but, a 2-0, hey, we'll take it, better than an 0-2.
Yeah. And, I mean, with that, we have some scores to look at, and this is not the first time, but, like, we're still at a point of we don't know who's going to make it to playoffs still going into week 6, which is like not unheard of. But the fact is, from 1st to 7th place, kind of up in the air.
Yes. So why don't you tell me about the top 4? I'll give you the bottom 4, and then we can break it down in detail.
Certainly. We have the Minnesota Jynx at a 3-2 plus 8, with the Martian Mantines in a tie, or actually, I don't know if they've.
It's a tie. It's a tie. They play next week.
Okay. Yep.
So
it's a tie.
Tie for second between Black Captain and Bananas.
Yep. They're both at a 3-2 at plus 6, and then Aurora is at a 3-2 plus 2, dropping down to 5th place. Who do we have?
Well, we've got the Dallas Duckletts also at a 3-2, but with a -2 differential. Then we have a tie for 6th place between Liz and Goober of the Sunshine State Smolivs and Bidwell Bees, respectively, each sporting a 2 and 3 -4. And then in 8th place, we've got ASCII of the Philadelphia Phantumps sitting at a 1 and 4 -12.
Man, so we have some math to do and to talk about a little bit. This is not a straightforward, like, knowing who's going to be making it to playoffs after week 6 either, because there's a few matches this week that are kind of key to getting a good idea of like who's actually going to be making it.
Well, let's clear the air just off rip. Let me tell you, we are not going to know the makeup of playoffs until week 7 is over.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way to meaningfully predict who's going to make it. What we can say is that there are a few things that we can note. So ASCII is technically still not out. If he got 2 6-0s in a row, he would end at 3 and 4-0, just dead even differential. And if that were to happen, that could put him, in an okay spot, depending on if any of these 3 and 2s, lose their 2 in a row, go to negative differential. It is not impossible for ASCII to squeeze in, but it is very unlikely. He's going to have to put up some incredible performances, and he still has some very difficult matches ahead, including Aurora and Nihilus being his last 2, and neither of those are looking like an easy 6-0.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. Something else to consider is that many of the 3-2s, many of the top end, have not fought each other yet, which means a lot of them are guaranteed a win or guaranteed a loss, depending on how it goes, right? Like, for example, next week, we're looking at Menma versus Nihilus. They're both sitting at a 3-2, which means one of them has to become a 4-2. One of them has to become a 3-3 next week.
Yeah, and if Nihilus wins by a large enough differential, actually can bump up above Menma and maybe take first place, depending how other matches go.
Right. Well, you also have to consider that Bananas versus Black Captain, same deal. They're both sitting at 3-2. They're actually dead even tied right now for second place. One of them has to become 4-1. One of them has to become 3-3. So we're going to see it all kind of split apart. We're going to see some people in the top 4 potentially, definitely falling out based on how the matches around go. Like, nobody sitting in the top 4 is safe where they are.
Yeah.
It should also be noted that of the last 2 weeks, Bananas also has an especially difficult set of matches remaining, because he's got Black Captain, who he's currently tied with, and then Aurora for week 7, who is the top seed of the division, and somebody who, while she had a kind of rough start to the division, has been winning a lot lately.
Yeah, but again, it's just, we're still just not going to know. We might have a slightly better idea of who's out, but who's in, we're still not going to know until probably the end of week 7 itself for this division. Comparatively, if you look over Rocket, by the way, if you want to check out the other divisions, please go check out those other videos. Aurora and I go over Aqua Division, and there's a few players that are likely, we have a good idea that they'll be making the playoffs. Here, I could not tell you who's likely making it to playoffs in Rocket.
Yeah, Rocket is really difficult. If I had to take some guesses, some stabs at it, we know that next week we've got Liz and Goober, the Sunshine State Smolivs and Bidwell Bees, also tied the same as Black Captain and Bananas are.
Yeah.
Sitting now, but it's on their end they're at 2 and 3 -4. Since one of them is guaranteed to also become a 3 and 3, they will be very much still in the race. Whereas the other one moving into week 7 at a 2 and 4, not strictly guaranteed out, but is effectively guaranteed out.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, I don't have more to add. It's like we have maybe a guarantee out next week, but even then, that's only one that's likely a potential out. There's still 6 other players here, and the differential is so close that unless someone gets a crazy win, likely we're still going to see another shuffle going into next week. Obviously, we have Bananas and Black Captain. We can get the largest differential difference there, but 4 and 2 at plus like 8 might not be huge. 4 and 2 at plus 10, maybe, considering Aurora being at a 3 and 2 at 2 right now, might not go that much higher depending how these next few matches go.
Yeah, I would say really at this point, ASCII is the chaos candidate, someone who definitely has to just unlock something within himself to get back in contention. But ASCII picking up a win on either of his 2 remaining matches could spell disaster for Aurora or Nihilus, depending on where he finds them. Or if he wins both, that could just be disruptive in general. So, yeah. Very, very volatile still. And like we say, it's going to be volatile until week 7. Yeah. We don't know who is going on until the division's over at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, it may come down to differential and like tiebreakers.
It will. It just will. I mean, it's not even necessarily out of the question that there's a 3-way tie with a circular head-to-head. If there's going to be a division where that happens, it's probably this one.
That's so crazy. But all we can do at this point is speculate, and we can't just keep going on at the same points. I think you all get the idea. But if you want to look at some other divisions where numbers are looking a little different, I love that Skull, the player with the second highest differential is in 5th place. Please go check out the Skull recap, because that's a whole thing.
Differential economy is very weird right now.
It really is. Magma's looking, I don't want to say like a normal season, but it's a little more normal than what's going on with the rest of these. And then there's Aqua, where we have good ideas of who's likely making it, but there's some cheeky little things that Aurora and I talk about in the Aqua division. You can check us out there. You can, of course, check out Spood and Nick over in Magma, and then Nick and Aurora over in Skull.
Yeah, and it's a good time. I think there's a lot of interesting things happening for week 5. This is, a pretty pivotal week, and week 6 is the penultimate week, and we're very excited to see you back. Don't miss more Rocket action. Surrender now.
Or prepare to fight.
That's right.
Oh, there it is.